This week,
there could be some short-term disturbance, but long-term, it's gonna make our country a fortune.
But for now, just the Trump tariffs on China are causing financial ruin to Tennessee farmers. China won't buy their soybeans. Pew Research lists Tennessee, a Trump-won state, as one of the most vulnerable states to the negative impacts of the Trump tariffs.
They are a drug manufacturing machine, Colombia, and we're not going to be part of it.
The Trump administration continues its assault on alleged drug boats in the Caribbean and now East Pacific without any authorization or details of who was killed and what was destroyed.
SNAP is the #1 anti-hunger program that we have in the country. To suddenly lose that for folks will be devastating.
As the government shutdown nears a month in length, thousands of Tennesseans face the possibility of losing their SNAP or food stamp benefits. And insight from our media and political experts, Republican strategist Chris Walker and Democratic strategist Mike Kopp. Hello again and welcome to another edition of This Week. The month-long government shutdown is threatening SNAP unemployment benefits for 700,000 Tennesseans. The Trump administration continues to fire missiles on alleged drug boats in the Caribbean and now Pacific while revealing few details. But we begin with new research that shows Tennessee is one of the most vulnerable states to the risk of the Trump tariffs.
It was a policy decision economists said could have devastating consequences. President Donald Trump confident tariffs would help the U.S. down the road.
There could be some short-term disturbance, but long-term, it's gonna make our country a fortune.
But so far, tariffs have had some negative impacts on Tennessee, including soybean farmers. China, which used to be their #1 customer, didn't buy a single soybean this September, the first time since 2018.
When you've got a product that you're having a hard time selling, the value of it goes down. So, we're dealing with low prices and, like I said, just really nowhere to move our product. And, therefore, the price in the end is your profit loss. It's not a good thing.
Now, new research from the Pew Charitable Trust found Tennessee is among the most vulnerable to the risks of tariffs compared to other states. The study, citing Tennessee's manufacturing intensity and dependency on trade for its economy as driving factors. The volunteer state's imports from China alone, adding up to $21 billion in 2024, or 3.8% of the Tennessee's gross domestic product, the highest percentage in the nation. Despite that, many Republicans here still support tariffs.
The tariffs are going to be a long-term benefit for us. I stand with the president in that.
Governor Bill Lee previously calling tariffs a courageous move to address trade imbalances between the U.S. and other countries. This month, he says he hasn't gone to the president about concerns.
Have you spoken with President Trump about the tariffs' impacts on soybean farmers in Tennessee?
I've not spoken directly to the president about that.
President Trump in a heated back and forth with Colombia's president over deadly U.S. strikes in the Caribbean on alleged drug boats. Colombian officials say the U.S. killed an innocent fisherman. The Trump administration says it's all part of a campaign against alleged drug cartels.
President Trump is accusing the president of Colombia of doing nothing to stop the production of drugs in the South American country. Now Trump is threatening to cut off aid to the country, even though it has been an ally to the U.S. in the war on drugs. Strikes like this are at the center of an escalating fight between Colombia and the Trump administration. 3 men were killed by a strike in the Caribbean Sea Friday, one of 7 deadly U.S. strikes in recent weeks. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth claiming, without providing evidence, they were affiliated with a Colombian insurgency group. Now, Trump calling the president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, an illegal drug leader threatening to cut off aid from the country considered a U.S. ally.
They are a drug manufacturing machine, Colombia, and we're not going to be part of it.
Petro, in a statement accusing the U.S. of killing an innocent fisherman, writing, U.S. government officials have committed murder and violated our sovereignty and territorial waters. The Colombian boat was adrift. It had its distress signal up due to an engine failure. Trump has declared that the U.S. is in an armed conflict to justify killing the suspected smugglers rather than arresting them. But the administration has provided no evidence to back the claim that the 32 people who have been killed were attempting to smuggle drugs. Lawmakers from both parties are sounding the alarm.
They had a very hard time explaining to us the rationale, the legal rationale for doing this and the constitutionality of doing it.
If you're not at war, not in a declared war, you really need to know someone's name at least. You have to accuse them of something. You have to present evidence. So all of these people have been blown up without us knowing their name, without any evidence of a crime.
President Trump also moving to penalize Colombia, threatening to impose new tariffs on the country. Avery Harper, ABC News, New York.
Now to our This Week cover story. Due to the government shutdown, Tennesseans will lose their food stamp or SNAP benefits if it continues. The State Department of Human Services says November benefits may be unavailable if Congress can't agree on a funding deal. State Capitol reporter Tori Gessner explains.
Log on to the Tennessee Department of Human Services website, and it's there in bold. If the federal government shutdown continues, federally funded SNAP benefits for November will be unavailable, and benefits for November may not be issued. It's scary news for clients at the Tennessee Justice Center, and it's unprecedented.
This is something that's never happened before, so we're really concerned about the impact to the families that we serve.
More than 700,000 in the volunteer state, or almost 10% of the population.
SNAP is the number one anti-hunger program that we have in the country. To suddenly lose that for folks will be devastating.
Advocates say when there's been minor delays in SNAP benefits before, parents have been forced to make tough decisions, giving up meals so their kids can eat and deciding between paying rent or putting food on the table. Right now, the Tennessee Justice Center is connecting with food banks and pantries to get ready. But even then, advocates say it would be very challenging to fill that big of a need, partly because food banks are already serving another group of people impacted by the shutdown, furloughed federal employees and those working without pay.
Some of those folks aren't even eligible for SNAP. Now is the time where we see those folks impacted that are turning to the food banks.
Advocates say the federal government has always found a way to fund SNAP during previous shutdowns, including the longest in history in 2018.
SNAP is something that has always been guaranteed to families. It's written into the law. As long as families are eligible, Congress has always found a way to feed people. I hope that that movement is made in the next few days to ensure that people get food.
Stay with us. This Week continues in a moment. Welcome back. President Trump wants his Justice Department to pay him $230 million in settlement money over past criminal investigations of him. The decision of those taxpayer dollars could rest with the DOJ officials from the president's inner circle. ABC's Olivia Rubin reports.
Tonight, sources telling ABC News President Trump pressuring his own Department of Justice to pay him $230 million as a settlement for two previous federal investigations into him.
They probably owe me a lot of money.
As first reported by the New York Times, those negotiations stemming from two prosecutions Trump faced. The first, a 2016 investigation surrounding potential ties Trump and his campaign had to Russia. The second, over Trump's handling of classified documents, which led to his Mar-a-Lago home being searched. Trump previously filed two administrative claims over those investigations, seeking damages over the Russia probe and claiming he was maliciously prosecuted in the documents probe. The president recently hinting at those complaints.
I'm sort of suing myself. I don't know. How do you settle the lawsuit? I'll say, give me X dollars, right? And I don't know what to do with the lawsuit. It's a great lawsuit, and now I won. It sort of looks bad. I'm suing myself, right?
And today, suggesting,
If I get money from our country, I'll do something nice with it, like give it to charity or give it to the White House while we restore the White House. And
that compensation, though, is typically covered by taxpayers. Any settlement would need sign-off from one of two top DOJ officials, one being Todd Blanche, who previously served as Trump's personal defense attorney in those very investigations. The other, Stanley Woodward Jr., who represented Trump's allies. The arrangement, which has no parallel in history, likely to spark severe ethics concerns. Asked for comment, the Department of Justice Justice saying in any circumstance, all officials at the Department of Justice follow the guidance of career ethics officials. Olivia Rubin, ABC News, New York.
And stay with us. This week continues in a moment. And welcome back to This Week. I'm pleased to be joined by my panel of media and political experts, political strategist Chris Walker and Democratic strategist Mike Kopp. Gentlemen, always nice to see you. We'll get to the craziness in Washington in a minute. I want to start locally. The 5th District race a year away, but it's suddenly becoming, it looks like it's going to be a real race here. Former Ag Commissioner, well-respected Republican Charlie Hatcher has entered. He's already got an ad out there on talking about he's fully supportive of Trump. We'll talk about his opponent, which would be Andy Ogles. Chaz Mulder, Democratic mayor of Columbia, $500,000 in the bank already. This is going to be a contested race. It's still a gerrymandered district. It still favors at least the Republican, if not Ogles.
Well, it seems to me, I mean, I think the interesting player in this is going to be Chaz Mulder. I mean, he's coming from Columbia, which is Ogles' base, and it seems like that's where his base of votes have always come from. And Mulder's popular. He's as a mayor, he's helped people on both sides of the aisle, and I'm hearing from my Democratic friends around the country that is definitely one they want to invest in.
And he's a Democratic mayor in a pretty Republican area.
Yes, again, he's put politics aside as a mayor and actually done the right thing for that community, and it's going to pay dividends.
Chaz is a great guy. I'm a Republican, but I love the guy, so I can't say negative about him, but it's a Republican district. Yes. We'll see how it works out. Charlie Hatcher is a formidable opponent for Andy Ogles. We'll see if the power of incumbency helps him here. Andy's not raised a lot of money. Charlie will have a lot of money to run against him in the primary. We'll see how the votes come out. Has Andy done a good enough job to be reelected? That's what the voters of the 5th District are going to have to decide, and I think Charlie's going to give him a tough race.
Is he going to have to, Andy Ogles is going to have to do some town meetings, do some more presentation, talk to me on this show? I mean, he's pretty much stayed away from us.
I think sunlight is the best cure to any situation. So yes, he should be doing that. He should be meeting with constituents. He should be talking to you. He should be talking to everybody, because that's what a representative should be doing anyway.
But what he's done so far in his terms is that he's just been a controversial figure. And I have a sense that the electorate's getting a little tired of that, that they actually want to see people who have some civility and a willingness to govern, and that's nothing in his character.
Let's talk about the government shutdown. We can blame whoever we want to blame. There are repercussions of this thing going on as almost a month long now. We saw in the setup piece here, if this continues another week or so, November SNAP unemployment or food stamp benefits for 700,000 Tennesseans, they're going to go away. Now, I asked the governor, is there any way that the state could come in to bridge this in some way? And he said, no, this is a federal program. There is no state money for these food stamp SNAP benefits. It seems to me, with $2 billion in rainy day fund, it's raining on these people. At least the state could move in and bridge it, pay themselves back later, but he says no.
Well, my old boss, he's got some good ideas on that front. I'm sure, what I know for sure is Tennesseans are going to look out for Tennesseans. So if there is something where we see people that are hungry, whether it's churches, whether it's nonprofit groups that are locally, we're not going to let people go hungry, particularly during the holidays. And so I think whether federal funding disappears from that might be a good opportunity for the governor's faith-based initiatives to try to take and fill that void. So whether it's the state or whether it's nonprofit groups, I don't think federal funding in of itself is meaning that people are going to go hungry per se.
I think I love the optimism, and I do believe that Tennesseans do look out for each other, but this is a train wreck, and it's going to happen. And you add on to that the fact that all these subsidies are going to go away for health care under the Obamacare, which is also going to affect tens of thousands of Tennesseans. And we're going to have a lot of people hurt. We have a lot of people hurting now, but it's going to be the kind of thing that the private sector and the faith-based efforts are not going to be able to fill that gap.
Looking at the shutdown, it doesn't look like this thing's near to end. Both sides are dug in pretty strong. This could go into the new year.
Yep, I'm hearing that. Might go into the new year after Thanksgiving for sure at this point, maybe before the holiday, but that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and again, I just think it's a shame because it could be settled so quickly by the powers that be, and the powers that be are Republican president, Republican-controlled House, Republican-controlled Senate. All they have to do is to agree to extend the health care subsidies so that people can keep their insurance for a limited period of time, but at least allow them to sort of get their balance with all this other economic stuff.
Who is it has the
Let's not forget that we've been trying to do a clean voting bill for a month, and the Democrats have been blocking it. So we do have a situation where this is a Democrat-initiated shutdown. It just is.
No, it's not. It's a Republican. It's a Republican shutdown, and the reason is because all the Democrats have been asking for, even with this clean bill, is give us some assurance. Not just say we're going to talk about it down the road. Give us some assurances now. More importantly, give the people who are hanging on by a thread to their health care insurance, give them some assurance that their subsidies are not going to go away. And they refuse to do that. Instead, they say, we'll talk about it. Vote for this clean bill, and then we'll talk about it. How can you trust them?
Same, similar situation. The number 2 Democrat in the House says this is a leverage point instead. So let's not use the shutdown as a leverage point. Let's reopen the government and have the discussion and be a functioning democracy on that point.
Who puts the pressure on both parties? Is it the citizens? Who is it that says, okay, guys, you're not moving anywhere. We got to find some middle ground?
I think we started to see a reflection of that with the No Kings protests that are happening. I mean, I think this is a time when people need to speak out. Whether it's going to a protest, tracking down your elected officials, this is the time when people need to be heard because their government is in a lock, and the only way people are it's going to make a difference is if they hear from the people.
People still run the country, and so if people are loud enough about it, things will change.
Tennessee farmers are facing a major financial issue here, and they're blaming the Trump tariffs on China. China, when it got tariffed by Trump, shut down the soybean market. It's Tennessee's #1 market. These farmers have nowhere to sell their soybeans. I talked to the new state agriculture commissioner. He says Tennessee farmers may be facing the biggest financial crisis that they've seen ever, including in the 80s when they were losing farms. If people are going to lose family farms, he's saying that every row crop is coming in at harvest at a loss. We can debate tariffs good or bad. What can we do for Tennessee farmers when they have no market for their soybeans, when the Trump administration is saying, well, I'll give you $3 billion in a bailout, but we'll give Argentina $40 billion. They're selling their soybeans to China. He wants to bring Argentine beef into the U.S. That hurts Tennessee beef farmers. There's a real problem here.
I'm a conservative first, and I will tell you I'm against tariffs. I've always been against tariffs. I think they are bad policy. They are bad implementation, and it's more government inserting itself into the marketplace, and we're seeing the results of that now. There's really smart people in the Trump administration that are talking about this issue, and I trust that their instincts are in the right place, but we've just seen over and over again that tariffs just don't work. And in this instance, it's hurting a lot of Americans in the process.
I think all these things add up to a fact that this president does not care about the very people that elected him. He could care less about that. It's all about profiting for himself and his family. It's all about holding on to power. And all this other stuff is irrelevant. To him, he's not even probably aware of the situation.
I'm a farm kid from the Midwest, and I grew up on a family farm. We just sold our family farm after my parents passed away. It's hard. And these farmers, they don't want help. They don't want government handouts. Right. They want markets.
Yeah.
And
free market.
That plea seems to be falling on deaf ears.
Well, and they need stability.
Yes.
It's hard to know day in and day out when a tariff rate changes how to price something. And so
is it going to stay on? Is it going to be temporary? How long is it going to be on?
So this erratic behavior on the tariff structure is just as unnerving as the tariffs themselves. And so eventually we're going to have to get that. We'll see the Supreme Court's decision on this soon, and hopefully some stability comes through that process.
Is there concern from both parties with what's going on in the Caribbean and the East Pacific with these drug boats being blown out of the water with no details coming from the Trump administration, just them saying these are drug boats? We don't know who these people are. We don't know what these boats are carrying. Yes, we're against drugs coming into this country, but is this the way to fight this?
Well, I think it's you hit on it. It's the lack of transparency and knowing what the intentions are of this government and who's being affected. But I think we kind of understand why they're doing it. It's to draw attention away from the economic failures that are happening right now all around us. It's the old start a dumpster fire over here, so we'll pay attention to something else.
Mike and I agree on the outcome. I'm not sure I agree with the motive there. I do think that they're looking at it from a standpoint of security and drugs,
yes.
But we need to have the information. When you have both members of the House and Senate Intelligence Committee saying we don't know enough information from the administration on it, that's a problem. We need to have information. When we're making decisions like this, people need to know that their elected leaders are being held accountable to the public.
And this country doesn't just normally just kill people. I mean, if there's a drug suspect, you're arrested, you go through a process, and then we don't just blow them out of the water.
And this country also doesn't just send federal agents into the street and start arresting people and not saying what's happening to them, who they are. Transparency is so important, and this administration's just throwing that out.
30 seconds, go ahead.
Oh, due process is very important. And I mean, again, we need to follow the process. Instead, we're kind of pushing to see how far we can get away with certain things. It's not healthy over the long haul.
Close out with 30 seconds. The destruction of the East Wing. Can we agree on if they wanted to do it, they maybe have the right to do it, but there should have been some kind of consultation with Congress, with White House, with people who actually own the White House?
Every president who's done renovations has followed a process. There's a commission. There are members of Congress that are involved. There are plans that are looked at, and there are bids. There's an open bidding process. All that was ignored.
I can't disagree. I do think, though, that the blow-up of it has been a little bit out of proportion due to what's happening. Ultimately, this is something that both Democrats and Republicans said have been needed at the White House, and it's something that the president's going to say and do. So we'll see. The accountability is there. The media's going to do its job, and we'll see kind of how this all plays out.
Chris Walker, Mike Kopp, appreciate it. Stay with us. This Week continues in a moment. And thank you for spending part of your weekend with us. That will do it for another edition of This Week. I do want to thank my guests, Mike Kopp and Chris Walker. We hope to see you back here next weekend for another edition of This Week. Between now and then, you have a great week.